I am Arlene Amrambawa, and for today, I will be discussing different Filipino scientists, inventors, and technologies. So this topic showcases some of the great Filipinos in the Philippines and international science and technology landscape who pioneered unique and indigenous inventions with a focus on their contributions toward nation building. So first, ang i-discuss ko na inventor is si Felipe F. Ceron Sr. So he learned to produce a land tractor, one that shall be fabricated locally, a virtual product of the Filipino's mind, an invention that is truly mothered by necessity that the humble Filipino farmer had always dreamed of fulfilling. So, si Felipe F. Ceron Sr. nga is nagsimula sa kanyang invention sa pamamagitan ng pag-produce niya ng mga hand tractor accessories sa isang small shop sa city of Iriga. Dati, meron ng power tiller or hand tractor na nai-import from England pero too expensive para sa mga farmers. Nag-isip or nag-invent siya ng mas efficient na power tiller or hand tractor and ginamit niya ito sa kanyang sariling farm. Uh, on May 22, 1973, the first Filipino-made power tiller was patented by the Philippine Patent Office number UM1220. So, ang kauna-unahang Filipino-made nga na power tiller or hand tractor is na-produce noong May 22, 1973. The man behind the plow, the Filipino farmer had become an inventor. So, dito na nga nagsimulang makilala si Felipe F. Ceron Sr. as an inventor and kilala siya as man behind the plow. Plow means araro in Tagalog or in Filipino dahil yung na-invent nga ng equipment is usually ginagamit na pang-araro ng mga farmers sa mga agricultural land. Then, Mr. Ceron exhibited his inventions under the brand name of Ceron Hand Tractor. So, in-exhibit niya yung kanyang inventions during the Manila and during the Inventors Week of 1973 in Manila under the auspices on the Philippine Inventor Commission. And in addition, hindi lang hand tractor or power tiller yung na-invent niya. Naging distributor din siya ng iba't ibang farm equipment such as hand tractor nga, fodder chopper, cultivator wheel, and lastly, the roller clutch. So, ganyan yung itsura ng hand tractor or power tiller. So, most of us naman siguro is familiar sa farm equipment na ito. Usually, nakikita natin na ginagamit ng mga farmers para mas mapabilis yung pagbubungkal or pag-aararon nila sa kanilang tatamnan na lupa. So next na scientist na i-discuss ko naman is si Eduardo Carrion San Juan. So si Eduardo Carrion San Juan is isang mahusay na Filipino scientist. Isa sa mga patunay ay kilala siya as the space junkman and he graduated also at Mapua Institute of Technology of Mechanical Engineering. Dr. San Juan had worked also on the Polaris missile, Skylab interballistic missile system, and the lunar rover. He was the man credited with the inventions of the lunar rover used in 1971 Apollo 15 moon exploration. The prototype made up of scraps where in July 1971, Apollo 15 landed in the lunar plain called March of Decay carrying the rover exploring the topography of the moon, including the Hadley Real George and able to gather about 77 kilograms of lunar materials using the vehicle. So yung invention niya na lunar rover is ginagamit ng mga astronauts na kung saan they were able to explore the flatlands, the slope of high mountains, and the edges of the crater. Naging part din si Eduardo Carrion San Juan Skylab project na kung saan it consisted of the Saturn workshop and the Apollo Command and Service module. And sa NASA or the National Aeronautics and Space Administration naman, he worked on the design of the geostationary bus and the geostationary platform bus, which carry communication payloads and carry Earth observing the science experiments, respectively. And he prepared also the design concepts of spacecraft and scientific payloads. He made also the contribution. He made also contributions to the particle beam accelerator. So based nga sa mga nabanggit ko, nag-focus yung inventions niya and studies niya sa science. So, ito ba yung iba pa niyang classified projects? First is the neutron particle beam weapon experiment, na kung saan it is all about the preparation of concept design guidelines. Then, yung next naman is the Space Surveillance and Tracking System or the SSTS. Ito naman ay patungkol sa conceptual design of the telescope, payload, and spacecraft system. Then, next is the space-based laser, and it is all about naman sa conceptual design and system engineering of space battleship system. Then, pang-apat is the high-energy laser weapons, na kung saan nag-utilize ito ng chemical laser system. Then, next is the homing overlay experiment, and ito naman ay patungkol sa conceptual design of missile interceptor and warhead. And then next ulit, yung experimental pointer and tracking, and ito naman ay patungkol sa conceptual design and construction of laboratory equipment and experiments on high energy lasers. And isa pa niyang mga studies is yung large optics demonstration experiment, and ito naman ay patungkol sa optical and sensor technology enhancement for laboratory demonstrations. And lastly, the hotspot tracker. Itong study niya na to ay patungkol naman sa tracking of enemy jets and placing laser beams on target jets. Dahil nga sa dami ng achievements niya, when it comes to science, binigyan siya ng honorary doctorate ng Mapua Institute of Technology. So, ayan yung itsura ng lunar rover. So, ito yung itsura ng lunar rover nga. Tinatawag din itong moon rover, and it is a space exploration vehicle designed to move across the surface of the moon. Napaka-useful ng invention na ito, lalong-lalo na sa mga astronauts. So, ang next na inventor naman na i-discuss ko is si Oscar B. Varona. So, he invented an electronic fire and Bulgar alarm with Philippine Patent number 4836, which gave him the first presidential award. The second invention was the process of making vegetable food products with meat-like structure and flavor, with Philippine Patent number 5616 for inventing a non-cholesterol vegetable meat which contains a high protein percentage. So, ang inventions niya na nagkaroon nga ng first presidential award is yung an electronic fire and Bulgar alarm. And yung pangalawa naman is yung nabigyan nga ng award is yung the process of making vegetable food products with meat-like structure and flavor. And nagkaroon ito ng certified analysis of his meat na inventions niya noong June 8, 1971 ng Food and Drug Administration. Nasa around 3 years yung experimentation na na-spend niya para magawa yung non-cholesterol vegetable meat na kung saan it contains ng high percentage of protein. He was also a recipient of the Philippine Legion of Honor for inventing an alcohol attachment to the weapons carrier while serving at the Philippine Army Research and Development Center in 1951. Ito yung itsura ng an electronic fire and Bulgar alarm. So, it is a device that makes a loud noise, such as a ringing sound if someone tries to enter a building by using force. So, meaning, itong invention na ito is ginagamit for safety and protection. Then next is na i-discuss ko is si Roberto V. Sales. Inventor Celis wanted to move out of the Philippines because nobody supported him, not even the government, which should be sponsoring worldwide projects. So, dahil nga walang nagsusupport sa mga projects niya, pati ang government natin and based sa kanya, dapat ang government daw dapat ang mag-support ng mga worthwhile na project. Kaya uh, naisipan niya na or nag-decide siya na umalis sa Pilipinas. Then sinabi niya din na ang naging motivations niya para i-undertake na yung unsinkable boat nga na project niya is dahil sa mga tragic sea accidents and unnecessary deaths na nangyayari sa bansa natin. Then, making use of his inventive mind, he produced the exact plan of an unsinkable boat. Then, the big break finally came in 1978 when the press office of Camp Aguinaldo took note of his plan, and he was invited to show his inventions to the military top brass. He later submitted the scale of 5 feet long model in the same year and installed a remote control engine. Attorney Eduardo Tan of the Filipinas Foundation Incorporated tested the model and it worked, so it was approved and completed the project on the prototype called Dama Filipina, the first unsinkable boat. And ang mga advantages ng invention ni Roberto B. Celis na unsinkable boat is nag-offer ito ng smooth, pleasant ride without any of its passengers getting yung tinatawag na seasick or yung nahihilo kapag nasa tubig, ganon, yung seasick. Yung seasick. So, and the other advantage of the boat is that it travels with less resistance when it goes into full speed, and the bottom curvature gives it a planning effect. And it is also less energy and it is spent and minimizing gas cost. So ganyan yung itsura ng unsinkable boat. So ang last naman na i-discuss ko na inventor is si Sofronio M. Sian. So si Sofronio M. Sian, after about a decade of continuous studies, Sian has 4 inventions, but the third invention made known. It was the portable mill, a cone-type rice mill without elevators, shifters, separators, and power transmission assembly. So, si Sofronio nga is mayroong 4 na inventions. Pero yung invention niya na made him famous is yung pangatlo niyang inventions. Ito nga ay yung portable mini cone mill. Pero nagawa niya lang ito or na-accomplish na lang yung design niya after a couple of years. And for the reason na wala siyang drawing table and yung ginagamit niya lang as his drawing board ay yung kanilang dining table. So, one morning is nag-decide si Sofronio M. Sian na gumawa ng one-type rice mill na walang any elevator, shifter, separator, and power transmissions assembly. Then, yung ginawa niya is meron lang 2 moving parts, a main shaft for turning the huller and the cone polisher, and the auxiliary shaft for rotating both blowers. And meron itong 2 rotating hand wheels control the adjustments in the milling process. Then it can dehullerize husk up to 90% of the total amount without any grade breakage and only weighs about 183 kilograms. This nunopak has the capacity of 60 to 70 kavans per 12 hours of milling and grain recovery of more or less 67% higher than the kiskisan type. So, ganyan yung itsura ng portable mini cone mill. So, ngayon nga is, dahil nga na-improve na yung invention na to ni Sofronio Sian is, ang tawag na dyan ngayon is the kiskisan. Yung dati itong portable mini cone mill na to is, ang gamit nito is para mahiwalay yung balat ng mismong palay and maging bigas.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, classmates. I'm John Rico de Guzman, and today I will share to you this topic, which is all about science in education. So the contents of this topic are science in education, education under Spain and America, and failure of education. So first, science in education. So yung role and goal ng science education natin ay dapat palaging magkapareho. Since science is considered both knowledge and method, operating independent of time and place, the benefits of science anywhere can only be the same. So yung value ng science lies not only in knowledge that imparts and bequeaths to the learner, but also in its method and techniques that inculcate in the learner's scientific habits, skills, and attitudes. Perhaps pwede nating i-define yung field ng science sa way na ito. It affords master over matter. So it discovers and rationalizes the hidden mysteries of nature, which are considered natural laws, but science itself is not the cause of these mysteries. So what does science develop in students? Science cultivates the needed habits and skills of observation, experimentation, analysis, classification, and generalization in students. So through these skills, science develops one's power of perception and thought. So the scientific method develops a person's attitudes of accuracy, objectivity, clear thinking, logical reasoning, and the willingness to accept facts. It develops appreciation for detached, sustained, and searching study, for open-mindedness, for intellectual awakening, for closer attention to specifics, for thoroughness, for a healthy feeling of adventure, and for a fierce dedication to the truth. Science, even as it is considered a body of knowledge, it is also taken as methodology. It has given a tangible method and system to what would otherwise be by chance and accident. So one is able to possibly explain the past and predict what is in the future by utilization of scientific methods. So study, observation, and experimentation belong to the present, and the present is everywhere. So yun, pwede nating i-explain kung ano yung mga nangyayari sa past and predict kung ano yung mangyayari sa future by utilizing the scientific methods. So next, the generally accepted but irresponsible difference between education and science is misleading. So science as a subject matter, it is one of the various materials with which education works, and science as a methodology naman it is one of the sources of techniques that education uses. So the general benefits of science have greatly challenged in our country. So while the Philippines might have been a beneficiary of the methods of science even before we went under a program of formal education, it was during the American period that brought about a most significant and essential change in the nature of education. It is this education that has been largely credited for the development of science in the Philippines. So let us go next to the education under Spain and America. So the Spanish system of education focused more on college education. So na-focus siya sa kolehiyo. Kahit na merong mas mababang level of education doon, mas naka-focus siya sa college education. So, and mas binibigyan nila ng emphasis yung pag-aaral sa humanities. So, young students were taught the substance of philosophy and history. Pero kahit na mas ina-emphasize yung pag-aaral sa humanities, sa philosophy and history, yung education level naman ng mga tao noon sa pagdating sa science mas mababa, as in napakababa ng level ng edukasyon nila pagdating sa siyensya. So the knowledge of a graduate in those times was extremely deficient in terms of natural sciences. This may be gleaned from Rizal's description of a class in physics sa novel niyang The Reign of Greed. So, nung panahon ng sinakop tayo ng mga Spanish, napakalaking achievement na kapag yung isang tao nakapag college and natuto kung paano magsalita ng Spanish ng maayos. So next, punta naman tayo sa American system of education. So nung dumating yung mga Amerikano, nung sinakop nila tayo noon, of course, inintroduce din nila sa atin yung system of education nila. So unlike the system of education sa Spain, yung sistema naman ng edukasyon sa Amerika, mas binibigyan nila ng emphasis yung pag-aaral sa science and yung epekto ng science sa health, sa economic progress and comfort. So since mas nagfo-focus sa science ang system ng education ng Amerika, yung methods ng science and techniques were also used in the academe and applied to the community problems. And with that, yung mga social problems na kinakaharap natin noon, mas na-handle natin ng maayos. Like, yung mga daan natin, mas nag-improve. Yung sanitation, mas naging modern. Nakapagpatayo ng mga hospitals. Yung mga business cycles became relevant. And yung physical education ay nabigyan ng attention through the use of sports. So, kung titingnan natin na maraming positive effects yung education, ay yung science in education. Pero, of course, meron pa ding negative effects yung science. Like, yun nga, mas nagiging modern tayo in terms of living. So, yun. So, yung example is labor saving mechanisms or yung paggamit ng mga makina pagdating sa pagtatrabaho, naapektuhan yung human labor kasi nga napapalitan na ng mga makina yung mga tao pagdating sa pagtatrabaho, and dahil doon umuusubong yung mga social problems. So next, aware naman tayo na some people or yung ibang tao against sila sa science because kahit na mayroong positive effect na dinadala yung science sa buhay natin, minsan nagdadala din siya ng negative effect or nagdadala siya ng destruction sa atin. So ayun, science brought us destruction sometimes, no, katulad nga nitong nasa picture, atomic bomb, no? So yung anong mali? Hindi naman mali yung science, pero yung paggamit natin ng siyensya yung mali. So, yun, yung science equip us with technique fundamentals. But it leaves our mind free to decide kung saan natin gagamitin yung mga or kung saan natin i-apply yung mga techniques na natutunan natin. Soon, man driven by fear and ruled by whims trembles before the majesty of his own dignity. Like a dark evil prowler, man builds on distrust, suspicion, and hate, applying the facts and methods na natutunan niya sa science on these materials with a debased intellect and a perverted will. Man unsurprisingly discovered the atomic bomb. So, as the saying goes, if men do not live by virtue, they will die by power. So, next is the failure of education. So, science does not dictate the choice of a person. Tayo yung nagde-decide kung ano yung magiging desisyon natin para sa ating mga sarili. So, dito, it is here where education can utterly fail. Not because of science, but because education lacks a philosophy. Its motive is sometimes ill-defined or vaguely conceived. So, yung education, ini-aim niya na to equip man with a solid sense of ethics and values. So, to achieve such an end, kailangan yung education gumana ng maayos, as it does with the intellect and the will of man. When properly trained to work for the common good, man shall employ his powers on projects that shall achieve such end. On the application of such newfound powers, man utilizes the techniques of science. Man then works with precision and efficiency in attempting to explain man's behavior and to understand why man acts as he does. For example, Kapag nakakita tayo ng mahirap na tao, hindi na natin siya ganoong masyadong sinisisi kung bakit siya mahirap. Bagkus, mas iniintindi na natin yung mga reason kung bakit siya naghihirap, which may lie in his environment. So, through the cause and effect method of observation, a study of different variables in the environment and the natural equipment of individuals is being utilized in such subjects as economics, psychology, and social welfare. A more objective and fair study of social problems such as poverty, delinquency, inflation, and similar social phenomena is thus made possible, since many of the social sciences deal with individuals and their collective welfare. Such subjects must, therefore, necessarily consider the philosophy and religious background of man's origin, nature, and purpose. This is where the role of education takes over. So, ironically, education has failed to catch up with technical and scientific progress. So, yung reason kung bakit nag-fail yung education is because yung tao, mas mabagal daw siyang kumilos kapag ginagamit niya yung kanyang puso rather than kapag ginagamit niya yung kanyang isipan. So, indeed, we can only reap the benefits of science if man, guided by his true sense of values made possible by his education, recognizes that along with the physical well-being, there exists in truth and reality the spiritual world where science must graciously yield to education and allow education to evolve into wisdom. So, in moments of hesitation, there are many occasions where the spiritual and moral composition of a people is more important than the material. This is especially so with the states whose financial resources are such that they are not in a position to cope physically with the forces that are trying to put them down. So in a nutshell, most important contribution of our system of education through science is the discipline it gives to our methods of thinking. And scientific methodology has increased our knowledge by 1,000-fold. So yun, no? Na mas naging better yung knowledge natin dahil sa scientific methodology. So this, together with our spiritual heritage na galing sa Spain, has made rock solid the intellectual foundation of our faith as a nation. So indeed, faith and science taken together render the highest kind of justice to creation. So next, let us tackle the science and government policy, the case of the war on drugs. So in the view of the current war on drugs, forensic science meron silang important role na ginagampanan sa prosecution of cases involving illegal drugs. So, para ma-ensure na walang inosenteng tao ang basta-bastang makakasuhan or mapagbibintangan na gumagamit ng illegal drugs. So, illegal drugs, problema na talaga sila sa bansa natin since 1800s pa lang. So, panahon pa lang noong sinakop tayo ng mga Kastila, problema na pala siya sa bansa natin. And dahil doon, naging kilala yung Pilipinas as a significant source of high potency crystalline methamphetamine, o yung mas kilala natin sa tawag na shabu, na ginagamit dito sa bansa natin domestically and ine-export din sa ibang location sa East and Southeast Asia and sa part ng Oceania or banda doon sa Australia, mga bansang karatig ng Australia. So, next, kahit na ganoon pa man, no, yung prosecution ng mga tao na involved sa illegal drugs, hindi pa din natin masasabi na successful talaga. Meron naman tayong forensic chemists and crucial sila para maging successful yung mga drug busts. Pero yung current forensic capabilities natin, hindi pa ganoon ka-advanced and hindi pa siya ganoon ka-enhanced. Also, yung vital role ng forensic laboratory in the area of drug control is hindi siya masyadong nare-recognize ng maayos. So, forensic crime laboratories must provide scientific guidance and advice to support para masuportahan yung law enforcement and to enforce early warning systems, enhanced regulatory and monitoring capabilities, and lastly to develop responsive and effective drug control, prevention and treatment policies. So that's it for my part in this report.